The stream
You
is
don't
live.
have to. You don't have to see me as long as you can hear me.
No,
I am
that's
here.
fine. That's
I don't know
fine,
what's happened. As I say, I don't know what's happened to the picture, but I'll tell you what. Let's do that. How's that now?
Oh my God, that's a bit scary. Yeah, all good. Yeah,
I'll do that again. That's still not working. Anyway, Neil, great to have you on. Yes. We were just saying it's been a couple of years since I last saw you, and I think what kind of prompted the getting in touch then was I'd just been to the was it the under-18 British final that Leon Flint had won it. Well, he'd actually won it at Redcar like the year before, hadn't he?
Oh, right. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You're talking about a while ago when Leon won it at Redcar.
Yeah.
So that was the British under-19 final when he beat Jake Mulford was second, wasn't he?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, Jake Mulford was second and Harry McGirt was third, if my memory serves me right.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, blimey, that was a while ago, Paul.
It was, yes. He got a 15-point maximum that day, didn't he?
He did. So think about this. If Leon was under 19 now, then he is now 20. Well, he's about to turn 23 next month.
Yeah.
So, yeah, blimey, you're talking probably 4 years ago.
Yeah. And I wanted to ask you, first of all, about Leon, because obviously he was in your under-21 team.
Yeah. He went to the Speedway Nations last year with us.
Yeah.
At Bellevue, Manchester. Captained the team, number one, outstanding performance. And unfortunately, due to the injury to Dan Thompson, we just fell short of a spot on the rostrum. And even to this day, Paul, I feel if Dan hadn't crashed when he did, which was just an unfortunate accident, we wouldn't have just got on the rostrum, we would have won gold for sure, because Leon and Dan that night were absolutely sensational. And I think it's like one of those nights I was absolutely devastated at the end to think that we potentially got so close and ended up not even on the rostrum, didn't even get a silver or a bronze. But from Leon's point of view, standout performance from him. And to be honest, worked with him a couple of times this year when he captained the under-24 team. We went to Ludwigslust in Germany, the north of Germany, for a qualifier. And then 2 weeks later, we did the final in Macon in France. And again, Leon was number one, captained the team, did a sterling job, and we ended up claiming the bronze medal. So, I've only got high words for Mr. Flint. I must say, he's a credit to everyone, to his family, everyone that works with him, and it's a pleasure working with him. And hopefully, we can do it again this coming season at under 24 level.
So, well, obviously, from a Berwick perspective, he's still a bandit. He'll always be a Berwick bandit.
Yeah.
He might ride for that mob. He might ride for that mob over there on the West Coast, but he's still he's always going to be a bandit. And it's pleasing to hear you say that he's improving. Would Tom Brennan be the sort of role model that everybody's trying to copy now?
Yeah. I think to be fair, that's probably a fair statement. If I'm being honest, probably Tom's the one that's probably achieved the most at this time. However, I do feel there's a number of riders probably slightly behind Tom. Yeah, would include Leon in that. Probably include Dan Thompson in that. There's not that far behind Tom. Leon's a year younger than Tom. Dan's 2 years younger than Tom. So they've still got that extra time to improve. So, hopefully, maybe if we sat here in another 4 years' time, we're going to have, 4 or 5 guys at that level. So, but I think that's fair comment to say that Tom's the one that they're all chasing at the minute for that perhaps that extra spot at the World Cup, possibly. So
yeah.
But
obviously, sorry,
I was
everybody's
just going to say, but there's too many riders too far behind at this point.
and obviously everybody's chasing Dan Bewley to be Britain's number. Well, him and Robert Lambert are the standout riders, aren't they?
Yeah, of course. I think you would speak to any young riders, be it British, Danish, Polish, Swedish, wherever they are, everyone's aims will be to be in the Grand Prix, and that's obviously the ultimate in World Speedway. And most of us watch Dan and Robert, every other Saturday night on the TV, racing at the very top level at packed out stadiums, and the same in any sport. Every sport compared to wants to ride or compete at the highest level. So exactly what you said, Paul. To achieve what Robert claimed that silver medal in 24, and Dan Bewley's got the bronze in 25. So again, both of those are still very young, young riders, both in their mid-20s still, or sort of mid to late 20s. So plenty of years for those guys to hopefully even push forward and try and get that gold medal at some point.
Sure. I mean, obviously the good thing that I've heard recently about Leon is that he's going back to Sheffield, but he's not going back as reserve. He's actually stepped up to the main body of the team, which is understandable, seeing as he's had a couple of maximums in the Premiership, hasn't he?
Yeah, their Rising Star program. Some of the boys have struggled, but again, I think going back to Tom and now Leon, that those two guys are prime examples of what the Rising Star program is all about. They've had a couple of years as a Rising Star, riding at reserve, getting those protected races, which has enabled them to push on. And again, exactly what you said, Paul, with Leon this year, he's pushed on and now he's achieved a spot in the top 5 of a Premiership team, which without speaking to Leon myself, I would imagine that he would say that would be one of his goals for this year, would be to stay in that top 5.
Absolutely, yeah. Yep. So brings us nicely on to another former member of the under-21 team, and basically he's been our Berwick's replacement for Leon the last couple of years, Mr. Drew Kemp. What can you tell us about Drew?
Right, Mr. Kemp, he's a special one, definitely. I think, again, being very fortunate working with Drew for many years since he was in the British Youth Championship. Christ, probably 8 years. 8 years now as time goes by. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, again, similar to Leon, a natural talent, natural speedway rider. I think, to be fair, he's improved every year. Yeah, in 25, had an excellent season at both Berwick and Leicester. Ended up Berwick's number 1 at the end of the season, or riding with that number 1 race jacket.
Yep.
I'm currently riding in Argentina, of course. I've been keeping closely a watch on his scores, and has been doing very well out there as well. Yep. So again, another rider that I expect to kick on in 26.
Yeah, and I mean, when he was a complete surprise, I think to back to the Bandit fans when he was signed. Drew Kemp was not on anybody's radar. And after a year, Stuart made it public that he wanted to see improvement in Drew. And that's the kind of improvement you want to see. He's gone from, I think when he started at 5 points to about an 8.5 point average. And he's been consistently the fastest around Berwick.
Yeah,
now,
he has.
I don't know about you, but I in the past, I've never associated Drew as being a big track rider. Not like Leon.
I think no. Yeah. I understand your point. However, because Drew's he's natural talent. He's a very good like I know he does a bit of grass track, does a bit of motocross. He's an actual motorcyclist, you know, rather than just concentrating on the one discipline of Speedway. So, and again, you know, just talking about Drew now, I'm sort of thinking back to when I first worked with him. I remember as a 16-year-old, I selected him for a European under-19 competition, and we went to Güstrow in the north of Germany. And I believe I'm correct in saying this is Drew's first event in Europe, and he actually won this under-19 qualifier with a 15-point maximum. Wow! And which at that time I was like, oh my god, this boy's going places. Yep. He hasn't progressed as much as we would have liked from that point. But you know, some of these riders are sort of slower burners, and again, you know, I would like to think in the next 2 or 3 years, Drew will continue to kick on. And I know that he's riding in the Polish League in 26. Yep. I believe that he's got a Premiership spot again, also in 26. So, as I say, you know, riding in Argentina, I think he's doing 12 meetings out there over the course of winter. I expect him to, you know, start the season, you know, as if he hasn't stopped, which he literally hasn't stopped, and you know, kick on from there. So I would like to think that Drew's going to continue that progression. And going back to what we were talking about earlier, Paul, I think I would class Drew, although Drew's the same age as Tom, he hasn't progressed quite as quickly, but I expect him to in the next season or two to, you know, get to those levels.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, going back to Dan, that's I was always very upset at a couple of years back about him and Joe always getting a team place and then losing it a couple of months later, and then they're in somewhere else, and I can't help thinking, what am I right in thinking that we at Berwick can be proud of the fact that we brought Drew back for a second season, and that feeling of wanting of wanting him back, that you know that helps, you know, with the consistency of being picked for the same team 2 seasons on the trot.
Yeah, again, I would totally agree. I think, again, I believe I'm correct in saying that Drew being at Berwick in, so what would that be, 24 and 25?
Yes.
I think that's the first time that Drew's been at the same team for 2 consecutive seasons. And I think it's hard, you know, particularly for the young riders, to continue new clubs, new tracks, new setups. And it might take them, you know, 2 or 3 months to get dialed into their home circuit. Whereas obviously Drew, on the back of 24, he knows exactly what he's going into the new season on the same home track. Yep. And that, of course, you know, benefits him having that consistency. So, you know, like, I am sad that he isn't back there again for the, you know, this 26 season. But
we're devastated.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I know, well, as I understand it, Berwick did want him back in, but he's got aspirations to ride in Poland, and obviously those weekend commitments was too much for him, which is a shame. But hope Drew's made the right decision, and you know, for the good of British Speedway, he kicks on and makes it hard for those selectors for the World Cups and years to come. And as I say, he becomes a top international rider.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always look at the fact that you get some Aussies that come over here and they do so well because they are, they're not a big fish in a small golf bowl anymore. You know, they're a small fish in a big sea, and and it's not easy for them being 10,000 miles from home. And I wonder if Drew's thought, well, because I think he's riding for a team in Latvia in the Polish league.
He is, yeah, he is. Dargaville's,
yeah. So he's like taking himself out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
In order to do, what some of the Aussies do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, as I say, probably some people in the British Speedway, feel a bit miffed that he's decided not to ride in the championship for this season. But you can't disrespect him for having those aspirations to dip his toe in the water, riding in a European league. And to be fair to Drew, he can only be at one place on at one time, and he's taking that risk with it, which it is. And I know Drew knows it's a risk. But you've got to give him credit for that. For
absolutely,
taking the bull by the horns, and he's going to give it 100%. Riding in the Polish league for Dargaville's, and see where it takes him.
Yep, excellent. Well, I mean, obviously, we at Berwick will be immensely proud of him. But we can't wait to see him back at Berwick. Every now and again as a Grand Prix rider.
Yeah, that's it.
That's what we're looking forward to.
Yeah, of course. And I'm sure at some point Drew will be back, riding championship, whether that's in 26 or some some years in the future. But he's a British rider, so he can always come back, of course. And
yes.
I'm sure that day will come at some point. As I say, whether that's sooner or later, we'll have to wait and see. But as I say, everyone's got to give him credit for taking the ball by the horns and giving it his best shot.
Lovely. Okay, I'm going to fire 4 names at you, and you can choose which 2 you want to go for first. The 2 that I'd love to see back riding again: Ashton Bowden, Kyle Bickley, and the 2 that you've got in your under 21, the 2 Lukes.
The 2 Lukes, what, Colleen and Harrison?
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the questions about those 4 guys?
Well, just your thoughts on Ashton and Kyle. Will we ever see them back again?
Right, okay. Right, so let's start with Ashton then. So since Ashton's taken a step back, I have kept in contact with his family. I am very hopeful that in the near future Ashton will make a comeback at some point. Again, like Ashton, how old's Ashton now? He's he only turned 18 in August, so he's still very young. If he decides to come back, this season or in a couple of years' time, Ashton's got plenty of time on his side. Again, I keep seem to be saying the same thing. I think again, natural ability, a very good motocross rider, clearly can ride a motorcycle. Clearly can. I think some of us, possibly including myself, sometimes riders are put on these pedestals, and typical British people, they get to a level and all of a sudden everyone wants to knock them down.
Yep.
I would like to think that myself likes to try and keep these riders a bit more grounded and keep them out of the sort of limelight sometimes. But as I say, it tends to be a British thing that a new kid comes along, everyone thinks that he's going to be the greatest thing since Michael Lee or whoever.
Wow. I was going to say, sorry, a little side question there. Best ever British rider. I'm going to go Mark Laram. I never got to see Michael Lee, but obviously you did.
Yeah, well, yeah. I must be a bit older than you then, Paul.
No, I just late starting.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. That's a great question. I must admit, I was a big fan of Michael Lee. I must admit, back in the day. Again, could have achieved a lot more than what he did, even though he did win the world championship. Gary Havelock, of course. I think Javi was obviously one of the best in his time. So that's a real tough question. Fortunately, we've had many good rides. Mark Lauren, of course, won the Grand Prix series. Even Peter Collins, former world champion. So, and obviously these young riders are hoping to achieve what those older boys did, aren't they? So yeah. So going back to Ashton.
Yeah, again, sorry, I just digressed.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So yeah, I would certainly like to think that Ashton will be back. I think he had that sort of 5.5 point average, which was tough for him in the championship. Yeah, riding in a strong team like Glasgow, every heat was really tough for him, riding at that number 2 position. So obviously a fair bit of pressure there as well. So he took that step back, but I would like to think that we will see Ashton back at some point.
Excellent.
Young Mr. Bickley, I actually spoke to his father when he was at the under-19s at Workington back in September. I know Carl's got a really good job now, and he's earning like a decent weekly wage and that. And I think he's enjoying life. So if I was a betting man, I'd probably say not. But again, a real good talent with some great days at the British Youth with Carl. He was world champion at 125 level, so obviously very talented. But he's sort of been out of the sport now for like a season and a half, and obviously the longer that you're out, it's tougher to come back, isn't it? So I'm not so convinced that we'll see young Mr. Bickley again, but hopefully we do. You never know.
Yeah. I'm looking at that new thing that the promoters have come up with, that in the championship, if you've been out for a year, a British rider gets an 8% reduction in their average. I'm wondering, is that aimed at your Ashton Bowdens and your Kyle Bickleys, or is it aimed at people say much more mature?
No, well, it's that regulation has been brought in for British riders.
Yes.
So there's no age limit on it, but obviously if you're British and the reasons are right, that would be considered. So it would certainly work for Carl, definitely. Ashton obviously hasn't been out for a season yet, so that wouldn't work for Ashton. But Carl Bickley would certainly be on that list for sure. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Moving on then to the 2 Lukes.
Yeah, the 2 Lukes. So, right, okay. So,
well, I was just going to say we've had the pleasure of having Luke Harrison practice a lot at Berwick, like over the last couple of seasons, and I'm not at all surprised to see how he's doing so well.
Yeah. So, talking about Luke Harrison again, without repeating myself, so Luke's 18 now. So again, being and working with Luke for 10 years, since the age of 8 years old. Always been impressed with Luke, even as an 8-year-old. He was one of those annoying little kids that that was always buzzing around, winning races. Never stops talking. Anyone that knows Luke, even to this day, you can't shut him up. No, but he's a lovely boy, absolutely lovely boy. And I think every year there's some riders that get spoken about more than others, and some go under the radar. And I think Luke is one of those riders that has almost gone under the radar from most other people. But he's always been in the back of my mind to think, do you know what? We will use Luke, at some point soon. And we actually selected him for the under-19 pairs in 24. And he did a sterling job, worked really hard. And I think he's a rider that never gives up. You know what you're going to get from Luke. And again, he's riding out in Australia now.
Yeah.
So being riding during the winter. So again, I would like to think that Luke will hit the ground running come March or April, whenever the season starts, and keep progressing. And the actual Speedway of Nations 2 is really early next season. So again, Luke will be in our thoughts for that. And hopefully do some other FIM events, and as I say, keep progressing. And I think he's part of that next generation after your Leons and your Dan Thompsons and your Drews. I think Luke will be that next generation of those type of riders, and
exactly, yeah,
excited by him. Luke Killeen, obviously, I think some people mistakenly thought that he would be representing Australia, but he's sort of like in the Ty Wolfenden camp where both Luke's parents are British.
Sure.
People are probably not aware of that, but so his whole family's British. They just emigrated to Australia when Luke was very young, and was very privileged to be sort of grown up in a lovely country in Perth in Australia. Yeah. However, ever since day one, we've always spoken about him representing Great Britain, and that's never changed. He got called up to Speedway Nations last year, the Speedway Nations 2. Did an SGP qualifier for us, rode in the European under-19s in 24, and again, the same as everyone else, is very proud to put the Union Jack race jacket on and wants it really bad. And I know with like Luke Killeen, similar to Luke Harrison, I guess, that they're going to give you 100% and never give up. So as a team manager, that's all that you can ask. Sometimes, as long as they give it you their all and give it 100%, never give up, then as a team manager, you've got to be happy with that.
Excellent. Okie dokie. Can we move from your weekend job as team manager to your weekday job as Speedway Control Bureau, no less, coordinator?
Okay.
Now, I must
be controversial with me, Bill.
I'm not going to be controversial at all. I've actually downloaded every year the rule book, because I do suffer from the odd bit of insomnia, so it's always good to have that to brace in. But you must know it word by word.
Well, I should do. I wouldn't say that I literally know it word by word, but I think I know all the important parts of it. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm not going to choose a page from it and ask you what's online, such and such.
No, exactly. No.
But
go on. Yeah.
Well, I suppose my question is this. So sometimes you see posts on Facebook where it says stuff like, "Well, yeah, I do," and it says, and somebody's put, "They need to sort this out." And I wonder who is the they that they're on about.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So
put you on the spot there, eh, pal?
Yeah. Like if it. Yeah. I've got to be a bit diplomatic. Right. So the Speedway Control Bureau is the governing body of the sport, of course.
Yes. Yeah.
There's 4 voting members, two representatives from the ACU, the Auto Cycle Union, and 2 representatives from the BSP.
Yep.
So that makes up your 4 voting members.
Yep.
I manage the Speedway Control Bureau on a daily basis.
Sure.
But I don't have any voting rights. And then there's a chairman, Jim Lawrence, who I work closely with. Again, the same as me, doesn't have any voting rights. So any decisions from the governing body comes from the 4 voting members. And then on the BSP, there's a board of directors, which you probably read in the recent press release that Mark Lemon and Rob Liner are now on the board of directors. There's actually five members on the BSP board, so they obviously have a big influence on the rules as well. But ultimately, Any decisions come down to the governing body, which is the SCB.
Yes, you are the governing body, and the promoters, they're like a separate entity, aren't they? But they do have some input into the Control Bureau.
Sorry, Paul, I just lost you then. Just repeat that last question.
Sorry, I was suggesting that, so that they're two different two different bodies, the Control Bureau, of which you're the coordinator, and then the promoters, which are the the ones that sort of run their individual clubs.
So the BSP look after the commercial side of the sport, and the SCB look after the rules and regulations.
Yeah. No, it's just I did read through, and I believe that if I don't behave myself, and if I was licensed, you could fine me up to £5,000.
I actually could.
Yeah.
All joking aside, Paul. Yeah, we've like riders. Yeah, so riders and officials. Like, I don't like fining people, to be honest. I don't. I'd rather give. Yeah, I'd rather give riders and officials, like a verbal or written warning in the first instance. Everyone's in the sport for the same reason, to have fun, to enjoy it. And if officials and riders are getting fined left, right, and centre, personally, whether this is right or wrong, I don't think that's really like the way to go. Particularly, from a rider's point of view, it costs an awful lot of money for them to compete at the highest level, and from an official's point of view, 99% of them are volunteers anyway. So, over the course of the season, there's actually not very many fines, fortunately.
Yeah, I was just going to say though that one of the things that it did impress upon me was the fact that, given, for example, last year we had that incident between like Sir Charles Wright and Jake Allen, and it's there's been incidents. I remember a couple of years back, Jai Etheridge and Connor Bailey, and they get fined, but then they're people are coming along and saying, well, you're finding the riders, but you're then using that footage as promoters to promote the sport. But of course, it's two different things altogether, isn't it? You're the guy, and you're in control of the rules. The promoters, as you say, they're in charge of promoting it. So I'm sort of won over on the idea that you do have these two separate entities. And the other thing I was going to ask, at the moment, it's the rule book. It's got about 180 pages. I'm sure it wouldn't have been that 50 years ago, would it?
What? Well, so are you saying 50 years ago it would have been a lot less?
Oh, yes. Yeah, there wouldn't be all these regulations.
Yeah, well, it's funny that you should say that because, people moan to me quite often and say, oh, yeah, but the rule book doesn't say this and the rule book doesn't say that, or that isn't how it is explained. But like I always say, Paul, problem is, if you put every scenario in the rule book, it would be like an encyclopedia.
Exactly.
Yeah. And again, I respect team managers and promoters and that, but everybody all the time is trying to, I won't say bend the rules, but to get around the rules. So the reason that there are 180 odd pages in the book is because we have to try and cover as many scenarios as we possibly can.
Indeed.
It's a difficult one, really, isn't it? And you say about the rule book 20 years ago. There's sections in there for anti-doping. There's sections in there for fuel. There's sections in there for the medical. As well as the actual the rules of the racing, which, as I say, to the best that we can, we've got to try and cover all the possible scenarios. but without making it into a encyclopedia.
Well, I'm going to say you've even got rules added on at the end about drones, and you've got rules that relate to the presentation, and now that obviously so much TV coverage in various forms, I'm just wondering if you should make it a rule in Speedway that the TV coverage of Speedway at other clubs has to be as good as Berwick do, because I tell you, we have got the best presenter now in Greg Blair. We've got the two best commentators in Marty Clyde, the Oracle, and James Black. And then we've got up in the commentary box, we've got Dennis and Steve Hayward and Lawrence Heppel. And then we've got Graham McCleary as the cameraman. Are there any rules governing that lot?
I think we're actually the club's own live streaming to the clubs, to be honest.
Right, okay.
Yeah. Without getting too political. No, all jokes aside, Paul, I think over the last couple of seasons, the actual live streaming has been absolutely fantastic. Obviously, BSN do a great job, but also their own clubs, I'm sure all of us are Speedway fans at the end of the day, and I certainly am. And I do watch an awful lot of live streaming, including Berwick's and everyone else's, and I absolutely love it, Paul. And I think, for all the negatives that British Speedway get, every single year, I think probably the big positive to come out of British Speedway from the last two or 3 years has been the live streaming. I think is absolutely fantastic, and long may it continue.
Yeah, it is good. I must admit, I'm one of those that I do like the coverage you get with the drones. And I think certainly at somewhere like Berwick, a drone high up on some of the bends would give you even better pictures and stuff. But anyway, there's all sorts of rules about what the drone can do, and as you say, you're just trying to cover a whole load of eventualities, and as I say, it must be difficult at times.
It's interesting on the drone situation. Like the Grand Prix used to use them at every Grand Prix, and there was an incident at Manila in Sweden where the drone actually crashed during the race, and from that point on, Warner Brothers stopped using them from that point on. So potentially, it's always those type of scenarios that you got to be careful of, and we have to protect the sport the best we can.
Yeah, no, I think I've seen footage of Berwick in the past where they've had like a real big cherry picker, and somebody's had to be up on that to get the coverage. I just think a drone, sort of not over the track, not following the riders round. I don't know that you need that, but you've also got the cameras on the. It used to be quite the thing for the cameras to be on the riders, didn't there?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's it.
I always remember when people used to crash, and Calvin used to describe it as dirt sky, dirt sky, dirt sky.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's it,
yeah. I've only got really one more question to ask, and that is probably the greatest race I've ever seen was that Dan Bewley and Robert. Taking out the Aussies in that final at Bellevue.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anything like that before?
Well, to be honest, Paul, right? Something that I've attended like the AGM and a couple of seminars already this winter, and I've got some seminars coming up pre-season, and I spoke to Ian Brannan from BSN, or had contact with him at the end of the season. And again, for all the negativity of British Speedway currently, I think last season, the British final was absolutely incredible.
Yes, it always is.
Last race with Lambert, Bewley, Bomber, and Charles Wright.
Yes.
every single one of them was leading at one point, and I think there was a quote that there was like 40 passes or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, and then the British under-21 final at Glasgow.
Oh.
Not only last year, but the last 3 years that Glasgow have hosted it has been like the racing has been absolutely incredible. But again, last year's final when 3 of the 4 riders crashed after the heat.
Yes.
I don't recall ever seeing a race like that before. And Sam Hagen was in full position and ended up winning it and crashed over the line. That was like the craziest race that I've ever seen. And then the British under-19 final at Workington, the race in there again was absolutely sensational. And speaking to Ian Brannan, who I'm sure has watched probably as much Speedway as any of us, actually quoted that he felt that was the best meeting that he's seen that season.
Yeah.
And to add to that, I think the Premiership final between Leicester and Ipswich, where it went to the very final heat.
It did, yeah.
Okay, the exploration at Ipswich perhaps on that night wasn't the best, but the pressure and the tension there, I think it was everyone would have been on the edge of their seats. And also the Championship player final between Glasgow and Port at Glasgow, when that went to a superheat to win the league. To me, I've just reeled off 5 meetings there without even thinking about it. I think all those 5 meetings were absolutely breathtaking. And, it's just what a fantastic advert for British Speedway.
Yeah. Mike has put that my camera is stuck, and it's been stuck now, and it's really annoying because it's been stuck for about 40 odd minutes. So I do apologize for that. And I apologize to you, Neil, because it's kind of difficult having a conversation with a emotionless person. You're not getting any interaction there.
I can talk about Speedway all week, Paul, so it's fine, mate.
Yeah.
It's no problem me speaking about Speedway, so that's fine. Yeah.
No, well, that's good. That's good. I think that more or less covers everything that I wanted to go through with you. Although obviously you've touched on somebody else that I forgot to mention. Of course, Sam Hagen. Is he at the age now where he's just past the under-21?
Yeah. So Sam actually turned 21 in October, unfortunately.
Right.
So So he now goes into that next group. But again, I really like Sam. He's had a couple of unfortunate injury issues.
Yes.
A few crashes at Berwick, strange, isn't it? I think
he had a bad one. Yep.
Yeah, like obviously he damaged his hip this year, and was it in 24 when he crashed and broke some teeth or had a
I can't quite remember. I think was it 24? Was that when he was at Poole?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, and But anyway, again, Sam was in the under-24 team for us this year that touched on earlier with Leon. So again, you're perhaps a bit of a slower burner, but we always know that he's got great equipment, talented young boy, and again, let's hope that he's in that group that keeps progressing. And I'm sure Sam's going to have a great career in British Speedway for a very long time. Yeah, absolutely. And I know, and with no disrespect to the Berwick track or supporters or club, obviously Sam's going to be at Glasgow this year, and I know that he obviously goes well there. Having won the British under-21 final there for the last 2 years, he's going to start off in the reserve position. So again, I think if Sam hits the ground running, get some confidence behind him after having that bad injury, then there's only one way that Sam's going, and that's on the way up. So be excited to see how he progresses in 26.
It certainly will. Yep. As I say, I think that more or less covers it. I do apologise for my camera. I have no idea what's happened. It's bizarre that the camera's frozen and yet the audio is still there. But I suppose it's probably better to. I don't know. Is it better to hear me or see me? I don't know. Probably neither.
No problem. That's all good, Paul. Thank you for having me on.
As always, it's a pleasure, and you know, I'll maybe not wait 2 years to get you back on again the next time.
No problem. Always give me a shout, and if I'm available, as I say, I'm always happy to talk Speedway, particularly British Speedway and the British boys and the young ones, which I'm, I've been in the role with the young lions since 2010, and I'm still as enthusiastic now as I always have been. So always happy to support the young lions at any time, or sing their praises, to get their names out there and give our young British riders as much opportunity as we possibly can, and keep continuing their progress and keep on top of the world if we can.
Well, they're certainly, as you say, they're all progressing, maybe at different rates, but they're all progressing and coming on really well. Yeah. So yeah,
exactly right.
Okay. Well,
all right, thanks.
Yeah, cheers. We'll catch you again soon. Bye for now.